Foreign ministers of Iran and 6 world powers are still trying to break an impasse in negotiations over Tehran's nuclear program. With the self-imposed March 31st deadline looming, talks went well into the night.
Let's get to the task at hand. Our first guest is national columnist for the Post-Examiner, also author of Gathering Storm, the 7th era of American history and the coming crises that will lead to it, Martin Sieff. We're also joined by President of the International American Council, an Iranian-American political scientist, originally from Iran and Syria. Majid Refizadeh joins us today. Gentlemen, I thank you both for being here today.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much.
Majid, let me get to you first on this, because we are now getting some discussion here that they may go into Wednesday and that the Iranian ministers may issue some sort of a general statement soon. The fact that they are potentially thinking about going to Wednesday, does that tell you that America is getting its way or Iran is getting its way?
Well, I think Iran is using the negotiations to buy time to shield its regional hegemonic ambitions. This is the first, I think, objective of the Iranian regime. And I think, secondly, the whole purpose of this first phase of agreement is really unclear because the most important and critical issues will be deferred to June 30th. So I am still not clear why they needed the first phase of March 30th or 31st to reach an agreement.
Well, then why were we told that this was such a hard deadline? The administration looked at it that way. So did the 5+1. So did Iran. If during the entire time all we were doing was looking ahead till June, why was anybody panicking about this in the first place?
That's a great question. I think they didn't want to wait 6 months until June 30th to reach an agreement because, as you know, there are a lot of critics, particularly U.S. allies, who are suspicious of the Obama's deal or his pro-Iran grand strategy. So what the Obama administration wanted to do is to split the 6 months into 2 phases in order to show that there is some progress is being made. And I think the first phase or the deadline for March 31st is an indication to see if there is a political will from Iran and the P5+1 to continue and reach a final accord. But I think yes.
No, Martin, I'll get to you next on this, because let me ask, with regard to this whole political will issue here, we've been hearing this over and over again. I mean, very seriously, because I know many Americans will ask this question, why should we believe for 1 second there is any political will by the Iranians to do anything but further their own goals, get what they want, and basically just play America and push us off to the side?
I agree with your analysis, Ed, completely. Within the last 24 hours, we've had the commander of the Revolutionary Guard in Tehran making completely plain, he said publicly, that Iran remains determined to exterminate Israel. Within the last week, the Supreme Guide of Iran, Ayatollah Ali Khamenei, has again said publicly before cheering crowds, death to America. He insists that remains a strategic imperative of the regime.
Could that all just be bluster, though, Martin, seriously? Because we all know that when it comes to politicians, despots, dictators, everybody just blows smoke more often than not. So is it possible that this is all just smokescreen braggadocio, if you will, from the Iranians?
Oh no, it's quite the opposite, Ed, because back in 1990, Saddam Hussein said in a series of speeches in Baghdad he was going to conquer Kuwait. He said it publicly, repeatedly. And this was covered by the transcript service of the State Department. They published it. I reported on this in the Washington Times. I was not allowed even there to say that Saddam was planning to conquer all of Kuwait, even quoting his own words. No one believed him. But he went ahead and did it. This is an eschatological regime. It is religiously motivated, and by religiously motivated I mean extremely fanatically religiously motivated. They say what they mean. It is in their interests to quiet things down. The people of Iran are much more moderate than their government. The government does not have to say these extreme things. They say them because they believe them.
They say them because they believe them, and frankly, it seems they say them many times because because they enjoy them. But that's another story altogether that we have to
Oh,
cover.
that too. Absolutely.
Absolutely. More ways than one. Gentlemen, if you would, please both hold on just a couple of minutes here, because we are now going to take a break, come back, because we have a couple of other questions to answer. What will matter most in the eyes of American voters here with regard to this? Hillary Clinton, Jeb Bush, Elizabeth Warren, Rand Paul. Why should any of these possible presidents be trusted with foreign policy? Do they know anything about it? And what do they need to know to get there and find some peace? MidPoint continues. Welcome back to MidPoint. Let's also welcome back national columnist for the Post-Examiner, Martin Sieff, and president of the International American Council, Majid Refizadeh, joins us. Martin, this one's going to come to you first here. It is obvious that many people will tell you that the Obama administration foreign policy right now in the Middle East is a disaster in so many ways. Is there any way possible for this administration to pull a win out of here, perhaps, when we hear from so many nations that they don't trust us, they don't want to deal with us, and they basically think that we are completely useless right now as a world foreign policy negotiating power?
I think you've answered the question yourself, Ed, and believe it or not, the answer is a positive. Yes, we can turn things around, but the Obama administration, the President and the Secretary of State, and the National Security Advisor, Susan Rice, they will not do so. How can we establish our credibility in the region? By laying down clear lines with Iran, by telling them, if you do not give up your centrifuges, we will walk away from the table. This will be supported by France. Think, Ed, the socialist government of France is tougher on Iran than the government of the United States is. Foreign Minister Laurent Fabius said only yesterday that Iran should not be allowed to keep many thousands of centrifuges to enrich its uranium. We are allowing it to do so. This is enormously dangerous. This isn't just a question of giving up Israel, as you said. It's a question of giving up Saudi Arabia, Egypt, France and Germany losing confidence on us, our allies in Europe seeing we have no determination left to support our allies in the Middle East who are a threat. So how can Germany and France regard us as a credible counterweight to Russia in return, however much we bluster and threaten? Everything is up in the air, and the Iranian issue is crucial.
Okay, let me stop you there for 1 sec. Martin, let me stop you there for 1 sec.
Sure.
Majid, I want to get to you right now, because let's take all that into an account right now. That Middle Eastern countries, the major countries there, they do not trust America. They don't think we know what we're doing in foreign policy. Now we look then at all these other candidates sitting here right now. Jeb Bush, Rand Paul, Elizabeth Warren, all these people, Hillary Clinton, who may become the next president. Is there any reason to think that these nations would trust these people any more than trust Barack Obama? It simply just make a change and we'll trust you? Or have we lost that now for generations?
Well, I think the credibility of the administration has been really, some sort of really ruined in the Middle East, particularly among the U.S. allies, Israel, or even some of the Arab Gulf states.
But is there anybody here who could save it if and when Barack Obama is out of office?
Yes, I think if they see that there is a really grand change in the strategy of the United States towards the Middle East, particularly if the United States again can fill the vacuum that is now being filled by the Islamic Republic. Iran now is playing a proxy war across the region because they see American vacuum there. American diplomacy is basically playing right into the hand of the IRGC, Iran Revolutionary Guard Corps. And the Obama administration is so focused on the nuclear issue because President Obama wants to leave a legacy, quote-unquote legacy for his administration by signing a nuclear deal, but he's turning a blind eye completely on Iran's hegemonic ambition, its role in Yemen, in Syria, in Iraq.
Majid, though, I have to interrupt you because we only got about 90 seconds left, so very quickly, is there any reason for them to believe that any of these other candidates would do any better? Because nobody has any real foreign policy experience.
Well, I think if they show that they are moving towards the right direction, yes, I think that trust can be gained again.
Is that it? And Martin, let me get to you because I bring up that point very frankly. Nobody sitting there as a candidate right now for 2016 really has a good, solid grasp of foreign policy. So why would anybody trust America when they know that a president coming in pretty much is going to be learning on the job?
I completely agree with you, Ed. And Majid is exactly right in what he said too. But there is a great opportunity here, especially for Republicans. And on the Democratic side, this is somewhere Jim Webb ought to go. On the Republican side, it's somewhere Ted Cruz and Scott Walker ought to go, but they haven't gone there yet. Or Mike Huckabee. None of these people have taken foreign policy yet remotely seriously. They need to start focusing on foreign policy like Ronald Reagan did before the 1980 election, because this is a crucial issue. In my new book, Gathering Storm, I make the point that the Iranian nuclear issue and the threat of a Shiite, not Sunni, a Shiite caliphate backed by nuclear-powered Iran taking over Iraq is one of the greatest security threats the American people can possibly face. And nobody has stood up to this, at least publicly, in the political arena. But there's a great opportunity to do so.
It is time for these candidates to do something because no matter what, foreign policy is still going to affect every American here as well. Martin Sieff, Majid Refizadeh, thank you so much for joining us, both of you. I look forward to talking again.
Thank you.
Take care,
Thank
gentlemen.
you very much, Ed.
All right, a cure for cancer and a cancer in the brain. Cure. Let's hold up before using that very positive C word, and a doctor will tell us why. It's coming up next right here on MidPoint.